Hey, young people. This is Miss Cooper. I'm just here to go ahead and give you a little read for our new chapter for this week, chapter 5. We're still dealing with this same objective. We're analyzing the emergence. We're actually, at this point, we're analyzing the Industrial Revolution as a whole and the social, geographic, economic, and political implications that resulted from it. So we're still talking about that idea of revolution, a great change. And in this since it is a great change in the world of industry. So we learned about a lot of different new industries on last week. We were talking about the agricultural revolution and different things that they were doing to enhance farming practices and coming up with new um, um, ways to farm, the crop rotation, the use of the mule. Uh, those were things that were contributing to the advancement of the farming industry. So the agricultural revolution actually predates the industrial revolution. It was a long time ago when people learned how to farm. But see, learning how to farm and finding new and innovative ways to farm, this is where the agricultural revolution connects with the industrial revolution. So this is how come we mentioned that component when we talked about it on last week. Then we talked about some of the new inventions in terms of mechanization, things that were machines and doing work that people used to do. So the spinning jenny, the, the the new steam engine, and there were several things. There were some changes in transportation. They were able to move products quicker, and they could move a lot more. If you have to put some things on a horse and ride that horse until it gets to where you're going, number one, it's going to take a long time, and number two, you're not going to put that much stuff on that horse. So with the ideas behind the steam engine, which comes into play with your people, Trevithick and George Stephenson, those names that were in your last week's material that contributed to the railway industry, and even just the steam power period, the idea that we can use steam to power something. Factories at one point were powered by water. So you had to put your factory near a waterway, a river, or a body of water in order for you to have power in that factory. Hydropower is what it's called. And then they decided to use steam, which is still a form of water. But as we continue to revolutionize different industries, we find out there are people and there are names and there are locations that are connected to these things happening. So we're still in the vein dealing with the Industrial Revolution, but we're moving a little further. So I'm going to just read to you a little bit from your textbook from chapter 5, and then I have some other documents and some videos that I'll be showing you throughout the course of this week so that we can really get a good understanding of all the elements of this particular time in history. So I'm going to just go ahead and get started. And it says here, the story begins. I always starts with saying that, letting you know what's going on with this. On November 15th of 1884, Scientific American, which is a publication, reported on the 400 men from the Edison Electric Lighting Company who wore light bulbs on their heads as they marched through New York City. Wires ran from the bulbs down their sleeves to a steam generator. That an electric lighting plant, complete in every detail and in full operation, can be moved at the uneven pace of a procession over the rough paving of a street without interrupting the current or in any degree changing the brilliancy and steadiness of the light, is a fact which, while of interest to the scientific world, clearly shows the perfection to which electric lighting machinery has been brought. Upon the first and last part of the line of march, every part of the plant worked most admirably, and the illumination was intense and beautiful. The light flooding every nook and cranny in the streets passed through. But in the intervening distance, this portion of the parade was conspicuous solely on the account of the darkness that pervaded it. This interruption was caused by mud from the water tanks clogging the hose leading to the pump. All went well after the hose had been cleaned, and this source was the Scientific American in November of 1884, November 15th to be specific. This was a magazine that reported this beautiful processional with this innovation, being able to maintain current, maintain electricity, power, extremely powerful that they were able to do that. The second industrial revolution. Now, a guiding question here is, what were the causes and effects of the second industrial revolution in Western Europe? So remember, we were talking on last week about Great Britain, and Great Britain going into Egypt, and Great Britain dealing in India, and the competition. Everybody wants to get a piece of the pie, and everyone wants to corner the market. When something new comes along, especially if we find it to be very lucrative, a money-making mechanism, people jump on it quickly, and they will fight you for it, for the top spot. They will fight you for it. They will go blow to blow, and it really happens a lot. And it's sad, but it's true that money often can be the root of all evil. It's the love of money, not just money itself, but the love of money oftentimes is the root of all evil. People do negative things towards one another. They go to war. They undermine governments. They get people in trouble. They lie on people. They do things to slick people so that they can get the money. So I hope you can kind of catch on to where we're going with this information in terms of competition, okay? Because this is, it's going to get real. So we're going to read just a little bit more, and then we're going to cut this one off, and then we're going to provide you some supplemental videos so that you can get a better understanding of this content material. So the first industrial revolution had given rise to textiles, railroads, and iron. Use of fossil fuels such as coal and then petroleum and natural gas resulted in revolutionary changes in energy usage, both in factories and homes. In the second industrial revolution, steel, chemicals, and electricity led the way to new industrial frontiers. So, okay, we had the textile mills. These factories were booming with cotton cloth. Everybody needs clothes. So at the end of the day, cotton became king. But remember the negative. With the enhancements in cotton, with the higher demand for cotton, also led us to an increased demand in slave labor. Don't forget that. So there's a good and a bad side to all of this good stuff, all this making money. There's always a good and a bad side. So steel, electricity, and a new engine. In 1855, Sir Henry Bessemer patented a new process for making high-quality steel efficiently and cheaply, known as the Bessemer process. Whenever we have somebody's name, you should write that name down. Henry Bessemer. Remember, every quiz you have is comprehensive, and it's going to come back. Names, dates, specific events. When we get into real serious laws, I'll start putting laws and acts on there. So make sure you're listening while I read and get some understanding. Henry Bessemer and the Bessemer process made steel efficiently and cheaply. Steel soon replaced iron and was used in the building of lighter, smaller, and faster machines and engines. It was also used in railways, ships, and weapons. In 1860, Great Britain, France, Germany, and Belgium produced 125,000 tons of steel. By 1913, the total was an astounding 32 million tons. Electricity was a valuable new form of energy. It was converted into other energy forms such as heat, light, and motion, and moved easily through wires. In the 1870s, the first practical generators of electrical current were developed. By 1910, hydroelectric power stations and coal-fired steam generating plants connected homes and factories to a common source of power. Electricity gave birth to a series of inventions. Homes and cities began to have electric lights when Thomas Edison in the United States and Joseph Swan in Great Britain created the light bulb. A revolution in communications also began. Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone in 1876. Guglielmo Marconi sent the first radio waves across the Atlantic Ocean in 1901. By the 1880s, streetcars and subways powered by electricity had appeared in major European cities. Electricity transformed the factory as well. Conveyor belts, cranes, and machines could all be powered by electricity. With electric lights, factories could remain open 24 hours a day. Now that sounds good. They're going to make some money. But remember, the last chapter we were talking about the horrible working conditions and people already working around the clock. Now that we have electricity, what's going to keep these companies from making people work 24 hours? Stay tuned. We'll pick up the reading and some more information.